Jamie, welcome to the podcast. It's an honest pleasure to have you. Jamie Mitri is the founder and CEO of Moss Pure. Moss Pure is the world's first and only company to use 100% live moss without needing any watering, sunlight, or maintenance. Their products are certified air filters and stress relief devices. So I am actually kind of intrigued. First and foremost, I would love for you to tell me what inspired you to start this company and what are the unique benefits of your product?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question, and it goes hand in hand. So, I've been a chemical engineer and environmental engineer for over 20 years in my career, but I've always had like a really great interest in aesthetics, fashion design, interior design, architecture. And so I always wanted to merge the two. I was working in biotech creating medical devices for seriously ill patients. And I was talking to doctors. In some cases, they wanted the cool products to be able to help folks, get better, diagnose them, and treat them. And so I kind of just, always thought in the back of my head, if I ever had the chance to create my own business, that I would merge my two passions together. And I stumbled one day upon a competition, a startup competition at MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. In June 2020, I got into the competition. It was like a 700-person competition. And after the 3-day competition, I created this company called Moss Pure, or what would become Moss Pure, and it won first place.
Oh,
So I didn't know I was going to do anything with moss. I just, for some reason, realized that the living wall market and the green wall market was in demand, but there's a huge gap. So most moss wall companies, if you've seen a moss wall out and about, which you probably have, it's actually made of fake or preserved moss, which is no longer living. It's treated with toxic chemicals. It has a really strong chemical smell and it just doesn't last. Like a lot of folks were getting upset. These big corporations, these big office buildings, were buying these preserved moss walls from these, artists or horticulturists or plant florists. And then lo and behold, like it would smell like chemicals and then they would have to replace it. So they were getting frustrated. So I came up with this idea to use a living plant. And the reason why no one could use a living plant was because no one was able to really find out, to have the science and the technology to get live moss to stay alive for more than 3 days without needing watering or
hmm,
maintenance. And live moss on its own is not an air filter. So I came up with this crazy idea to design, using my scientific expertise, design the world's first and only company to use 100% living moss, but you wouldn't have to water it or maintain it because I would create a living environment within the design that would passively take care of the product so that the customer doesn't have to. And then I would use my, aesthetics, fashion design, interior design, passion there and make it an aesthetically pleasing device or decor piece that you wouldn't even realize is a scientific, air filter or stress relief device. I just knew I was going to
right.
put the science in. I was going to make it work, but I was going to do this crazy thing and take a risk and just make it look really nice and cool and not like a scientific device from the 1980s.
Right. So, first and foremost, what are the benefits of buying your product? So, you mentioned that it's an air filter. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so live moss on its own is not an air filter. I think a lot of people don't realize that. So it's first and foremost that it's a scientific and biological air filter. That's another thing too, is many folks seem to think that air filters have to have a motor or a pump to work. That's actually a mechanical or electrical air filter. This is a biological air filter, meaning that I'm using living moss to drive chemicals in almost as its food source, because moss is a unique
Mm,
plant, and I'm using a specific species and subspecies of our own moss. I'm not using the type of moss that you see out in your lawn or garden. This is highly scientific. And so what I'm doing is I'm working with these biochemical reactions within the moss and having it drive in the bad chemicals in your air as its food source. And it's also
mm,
bringing in moisture too. So
mm.
I'm building a living environment, and then the moss is bringing in moisture and the nutrients into it, and then the living environment is basically storing these nutrients and moisture for the moss within our device. You
Very
don't
cool.
know it though because the device just looks like a picture frame, and it's very lightweight but still really robust and highly
Ah,
engineered. It's just really cool. So
and how long
no
do
other
these? Sorry to cut you off, but how long
Yeah,
do
so
these
the other
things
thing is
last
they
for?
are built to last.
Mm,
So for example, if you go and get a plant or even a preserved moss wall, it will probably not even last you weeks to months. Where moss pure, you know, it's interesting because I've worked with MIT on this, and it took me over a year to develop this product. And I worked both with customers um, all over the country to get into different like client types to make sure that no matter where Moss Pier was, whether it was indoors, outdoors, in Rhode Island, Miami, Houston, Colorado, Alaska, wherever it is, it could survive. And that's what I'm used to doing with medical devices. I had to test my medical devices in different elevations and different climate changes to make sure that they worked to help people wherever they were located. So I tested Moisture out even before releasing it. With customers, but also with certified testing. So many folks don't realize this is that if you have an air filter here in the United States, you can't just say it's an air filter. You actually have to have it tested and certified via what's called ASTM or ISO methods. So these are like, certified American standard or testing methods that any, device, whatever claim you make for it has to have to be able to say that that device is that. And so many of these moss companies were trying to say that their products were air filters, but I was like, there's no way that your moss is an air filter. It's no longer living, and it's actually off gassing chemicals into your air, the fake stuff, because it's treated with so many chemicals. So that's
mm,
why so many people complain about the smell of that fake moss. It's
mm,
because it's so heavily treated with chemicals. The chemicals are actually off gassing into your space. So Moss
mm.
Pure is actually a certified air filter. It uses living moss, and it's built to last using our science. Our patent pending science and invention is what keeps it alive as a never ending loop. So
How
it's
did you
taken
get
in
it
chemicals.
to survive outside of its natural environment?
So that's what I'm doing. So I'm actually recreating, and that's what I did for this year where I developed our patent pending science. I recreated its own natural living environment within our device and then created a biological air filter on top of that so that it's feeding in its food source, bringing it into its natural living environment, which is our device, but also
Is
keeping
this like proprietary
it is.
secret
It is
sauce, or
proprietary, it's patent pending. So I can't give
how
you
do
the
you bridge that
exact.
gap between, hey, letting people know what they're buying and also, I mean, isn't that the whole point of a patent, that you could disclose how you operate without the fear that someone would copy it? So I'm
That's interesting that you say that because that's not a lot of people seem to believe that, and I did as well when I
mm,
first started this. But as I've learned in the past 6 years, that's not the case. Unfortunately, there are people out there who try to, take
reverse engineer.
someone, yeah, reverse engineer. And the thing is like this isn't really easy to reverse engineer. It's actually really complex science. It
Mm,
took me over a year to develop with my 20 years experience, and it's not easy first to explain, but secondly, I do have to protect myself at the same time, but
right.
also at the same time give the customer the science
Correct.
behind it, right? And so it's really complex. So how do I describe that? I still don't know, and I don't know if I'm doing a good job, but I try to explain the science as much as I can. In many cases, it's like going on a podcast like this or doing like a YouTube video where
Right.
I just try and describe like, I'm creating this biological device, but it's also, has a living environment for it and it's keeping itself alive that way. And many folks, the biggest thing that gets people, is when they see it in real life. Like when you see it in real life, it's just a
Yeah, I'm
game
looking at it
changer.
on Instagram. It looks super cool.
Yeah, just
Like
getting it
super,
in
super
people's
cool.
hands, like, pictures don't even do it justice, and then, like, some of these pictures, like, I have people when I first started were like, when were these pictures taken?" I was like, 6 months after they installed it, because I have to get around to
Wow.
getting a photographer. Yeah, like, some of our stuff, the pictures that you're seeing were
Jamie,
taken by our customers.
you need the one sentence pitch. I would
I
love for
don't
you
I
to
don't know
bridge that gap between impressing me with the innovation, the engineering, and the science, while at the same time not disclosing information that's highly proprietary. And there must be like a whole bunch of space in between where someone who does understand the nuance of your industry, would know the basics and without maybe getting into like the specific tech or the specific synthetic adjustments you make to the moss, letting say, hey, we pull out the moss, we apply, so you can give me a broad answer on what kind of adjustments you make to the moss and why it's able to survive now that you've made these adjustments. Because I think that would be really cool to your average customer. Like, I would love to know what I'm buying because I'm looking at your photos and man, that stuff is really cool.
Yeah, and you know what? We work a lot with corporate office buildings. We work a lot with architects, with commercial and residential
Yeah.
builders, property managers. And the greatest thing that I can find is when these architectural firms have worked so much with this other product, the preserved moss. I literally just said one, like there was a big architectural firm here in Boston, my area. I literally said, "This is live moss. It's not preserved moss. It's not that smelly stuff." He literally was like, "Oh my God, thank God." He's like, "We didn't know you existed." He was like, "I can't tell you that the biggest complaint from customers on that fake stuff is that it smells." And he's like, "I didn't even know you existed, that this existed." He's like, "I'm sold." He's
Mm,
like, "I'm sold." So in some cases, people know, but they know only because they've worked with the other stuff and they know how nasty it is. But in many cases, people don't know the difference until I tell them, or they have to make the mistake. A lot of times, what happens is, and it's happening now in Boston, a lot of people at first will buy the fake stuff, the preserved moss, because it's
right.
cheaper. To be honest with you, and then they know why it's cheaper. It's just a nasty chemical; it doesn't last, and um,
I mean,
and
it's
then
like
they go
buying
for my
fake
product.
flowers or real flowers that don't die. I mean, that sounds like a world of a difference.
Yeah, and the
It's
thing is,
apples and oranges, really.
yeah, and not only that, have you ever been? Do you remember when you were a kid, or it's probably still happening now, where you go and like it's like the fake stuff that has a really strong chemical smell that hurts your head?
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like fake rubber, like that's what preserved moss is. And then you have the real stuff, the real plant. And it's funny when people ask me like, "What does your stuff smell like?" I'm like, "It smells like a plant." Like,
Mhm.
there's a Fortune 500 company
How long
here.
does it last for? Like, you said that the photos you took were some of them were 6 months old, but are we talking like a year
You
or 2
know,
years?
we've had customers who have had our installations for over 5 years, and it's still going strong. When I
How long has your
first
company been running for?
We opened in 2021, so it took me a year to develop the products. Then we
Mhm.
we launched in 2021, and it's funny because I got orders right away. I had to create my own website just to get orders out the door, and
Mm.
I've had customers who've had my products since then. I'm still hearing from them that it's still thriving. They're still loving it. Like it's still great. Um, you know, I, we provide a warranty and a custom maintenance plan. And I always tell customers I'm very conservative. I give you a 2-year window, but I've had customers who've had these for years. And the thing is, if you've ever had an issue, and I never had a customer have an issue, but should an issue arise with our live moss, there's easy ways where we can address it because the science that you're getting is the foundation of the entire product. That's robust. That's never going to expire. So should something happen down the line, it's really a quick and easy fix where I can give you something like I can send you some moss and our binding agent that I created from scratch. So you can't use glue on live moss. A lot of people don't realize that you'll kill it. So I had to
Mm.
create my own binding agent that's really eco-friendly for the moss.
Mm.
And that's how we attach our moss to our products. So I can send customers that as long as our science is intact, which it should be. All they got to do is use the binding agent. It's a biological reaction right away, and it just sticks to it. I mean, that's like the worst case scenario. I've never had that happen, but we provide, a maintenance plan and a warranty for customers just to, just to provide them with a guarantee. And it's interesting because no other company in our industry does that. We are literally the
Mm.
best moss wall art, living wall art product out there. We're superior. We are a luxury product. I will be honest with that. We do deal with more of the higher end customers because we're so exclusive and our products are built to last.
Where do you sell your products?
So we sell our products really exclusively on our website, mosspure.com, but you can get
Mm.
our products on Amazon or Wayfair. But customers just love getting it from us because you get that custom feature where I will walk you through and design it with you. It's a boutique package that you get, and it has the designs that come along with it. We use high-end wood, white oak or maple wood species. These are
Mhm.
long lasting, and um I basically stain or paint them myself with our own stains and paints that are very high end,
Mhm.
built to last. And this stuff is just legit. And I walk you through the entire process. We have a whole design process. And, it's just really cool. And customers love to design their own products with us. They
Hmm.
love our design process, so they like to work directly with us. Some cases, many customers will work through an interior designer. They'll ask their interior designer or architectural firm to reach out to us. But in many cases, customers reach out to us directly for a custom piece. Or you can actually just go onto our website, go to our shop. You can build your own piece right online. And,
Right.
but I mean, and just check out. But customers mostly just go to our contact form, tell me what size they need and what they're looking for, and then we get the process going.
So my question to you now is, what are your current challenges in your company? And
Well,
yeah,
I think we hit on that a little bit. I mean, Moss Pure is a brand new invention that I created. I created it out of nowhere. And so, and the other thing is most people know the preserved moss. They don't know that there's a difference. Unfortunately, there's so much like stuff out there about moss that's fake and not truthful, not even scientific. There's no scientific
yeah,
data out there for what these preserved moss companies are saying. And so I think customers are getting confused. They're not realizing that the other stuff is fake and that I do exist and that my product is real and it's legit. It's just such an
right,
innovative product, right? And being an entrepreneur in itself is hard enough.
right.
Now I have an innovative product on top of that where I have to give people knowledge about the product and get you hooked, right? And market and sell you on it. And I'm an engineer. I'm not a marketing person.
What
I
kind of
engineered.
engineer? What kind of engineer are you?
So I have 2 degrees in chemical engineering and biology, and, I worked in chemical engineering and environmental engineering throughout my career.
Very cool.
So I just have a strong scientific background in biology and chemical engineering, biotechnology, medical
Right.
devices, pharmaceuticals, and life sciences. And uniquely enough, that's where most of our clients are from. They just love the biotech and the biology, the biology aspect of it and the scientific and innovative aspect to it. And like I said, once I get it in their hands, once I get a sample or even the product into their hands or they see it, customers just are sold on it because you can tell there's a huge difference between when you see the preserved moss and sometimes I'll have it side by side and you can just see it. There's just a difference. The other stuff just smells. If you touch the preserved moss, the chemicals will come off on your hands. It just
Hmm.
looks like a fake toy. It's not a real product where the moss is real moss and you can see it.
Right.
Um, so I mean, there's a struggle. I mean, I'm still reaching out to architects who claim that these preserved moss walls are sustainable, which they're not. And then customers are still complaining about the smell of these preserved moss walls. So it's still getting people to switch over to us is hard. And sometimes it just takes them using that preserved moss or seeing that preserved moss and seeing the disadvantages of it. Um, sometimes sometimes it's them seeing it enough that they like, all right, let's give this a shot.
Right.
Um, so it's really difficult. It's still a struggle that I deal with. I mean, I have these little one-liners, like you said, that get customers almost like shocking them, like, "Hey, why are you gonna go with that fake stuff when you can get the real stuff?" And I have these little one-liners that I'm trying to just get customers in where I can just explain to you the differences between our products. Our pitch and our entire website is just all scientific. Like there's scientific data. I give you all the information. There's a lot of information there too. For example, biophilic design is this huge thing in the design world, but what people don't or fail to tell you is that biophilic design is this concept that nature in your environment relieves stress and anxiety, productivity. And a lot of folks, these design folks and these moss companies are trying to tell you that the fake stuff is doing it for you, but there's no scientific data. There's the only scientific data out there that says that biophilic design works is this one study that says that it decreases stress and anxiety by only 15%. So when I saw that, my scientific brain was like, that's not acceptable,
Yeah.
and that doesn't really work. The biophilic, I mean, the preserved moss doesn't work. I'm going to be honest with you. It looks like a piece of carpet and it is almost like a piece of carpet on your wall. It collects mold and fungus after a while too, because it's no longer living. So what
Mm.
they do is they treat it with chemicals. So it's no longer living. And then they put like softening agents in it so these artists can use it as like a piece of artwork. So it becomes like a piece of carpet on your wall that's lifeless.
Man.
So what Moisture does is we use biological elements to further engage your sense of sight, your sense of smell and your sense of touch. Like you can actually touch it, you can smell it. It smells like a plant, it smells like a fresh nature and like being, within a forest or a park. And so these and also we use a unique 3D terrain where we're using different species of moss to engage your sense of vision. So it makes it feel like you're really in a terrain of vegetation. And moss pure has a much higher rate of decreasing stress and anxiety by around 70% and increasing productivity of around I think 76%.
How are you
Um,
getting that metric? How are you determining that number? That's so
testing with customers, and a lot of
how
again
do you gauge
testing
how would you gauge productivity change? Like what
productivity
metric
to
are you yeah.
Yeah, so basically you're going into different areas and different so for example, going into a school or going into a corporate office and doing studies, biological studies where I'm not doing the studies, it's other folks who are
Mhm.
trained doing studies in psychology or whatever it is, doing studies and working with clients outside of my realm where I'm not involved and
Mm.
getting feedback both. And so getting feedback both from from the other stuff, the preserve moss and moss pure as well.
Mm.
And, again, seeing that fake stuff is just different in person because I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of the fake stuff, a lot of it is misleading. They kind of Photoshop a lot of their pictures. When you see it, it doesn't look like that. And so one of the questions
Right.
that we ask is, what does this
It's
look like?
picture
Does this look like a
perfect and
plant
it's
to you?
photoshopped and it's touched
Yeah,
up
and
and the lighting's
it's
great.
like,
Yeah.
does this look like a plant to you? They're like, no, I mean, it looks like a cool piece of artwork, but it's not a plant. I mean, and it doesn't remind me of nature. So
Right.
it's not just, and they're like, it smells like, so just doing studies, there is more work to do that I'd like to do with that on that end, um, where I'd like to get more data. We didn't have to do any of these studies because the science backs it all up of what we're doing, and getting
Mm.
the patent pending and getting the patents for that is actually going to be pretty huge once we get them. But just having scientific data, I think, is really important. And just having numbers to things is important too. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Like you go to these different websites and they're like, it increases productivity, decrease. Well, how do you do, like, why? Like, if I told you that something only increased or helped you out by 15%, are you willing to buy that product? Only 15%?
Possibly, but I mean more is better, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they just they don't give you numbers. So
Right.
you have to give people numbers to back up your product. Otherwise, it's not really, I don't know, that to me as a scientific person, to me, it's just like, that's not enough, and
Right.
that's where Moss Pure just is
So,
way above the other companies where we're not only our quality and our aesthetic and the fact that we are built to last, but we have these scientific data
right.
points and again, it's just when you see the product, it's just a different story, especially compared to the other stuff. And one thing I will say is I get a great question about the texture of the live moss because when you see it, it looks fluffy.
Mhm.
It is fluffy in its own texture, but living moss is not supposed to be soft. It's not supposed to be like, spongy or soft. The other moss, the preserved moss, is soft because they kill the moss and they add softening agents to it to make it soft. Live moss is not supposed to be soft in nature. That's not a quality of living moss. It's supposed to be a more sustainable plant that's
Mm.
supposed to live in more difficult conditions. So it has a little bit of a I don't want it's not like a crumply texture, but it is a little bit of, I don't know how to describe it. It's not stiff, but it feels dry, but it's not dry.
Mm.
I don't know how to explain it, but it's just its own unique, cool texture, but it's not soft
Nice.
and fluffy as much as it looks, in the
Yeah.
pictures. But
Yeah.
if you
So
do see moss and it's soft, it's not real moss. It's not living
got it.
moss. That's them
Got it.
adding chemicals to the moss, manufacturing it so that they can use it as an art piece. You know what I mean?
Right. 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 And staying true to how it should be is gives that authentic touch. Let me ask you this, Jamie. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I'd like to just see myself growing and just, learning more things on how to be, more business savvy and be more of a better salesperson and marketing person. But,
Mm,
I don't know. I'm very hard on myself. I'm a perfectionist, which is my
mm,
biggest weakness. So I'm always constantly telling myself, like, Jamie, you're doing well year over year. Like you can't be a billionaire in 5 years. And I'm probably not, I don't know if I'm going to get there, but I'll be successful
but
and I'll just keep growing the company. But I want to just, I want to be at a certain spot where I'm doing comfortably like 7 or 8 figures a year. I have a
but
manufacturing facility. I have a bunch of folks under me, and I have my dream manufacturing facility that I want, and I just want a bunch of folks working underneath us and just creating. I love creating Moss Pierce products. It's just so much fun for me because it's almost like an art. Both my science is an art that you're getting, because think of this, you're getting my 20 years of experience in science
mm,
within these devices, but you're also getting my unique arts too. Everything is really everything is placed very randomly. With the preserved moss, it's very symmetrical. With Moss Pure, I'm randomly placing the pieces of moss within the design based on the design feedback. So everything is just random. I don't do anything planned. I don't put like these clumps of moss here, these clumps of no, everything is legit off the cliff. And that's how nature is supposed to be. Nature is not supposed to
right,
be symmetrical and perfect. So I mimic nature in real life by doing that. And it's just like an art form. And we have a unique way of putting the moss together. We have a unique way of attaching the moss that's only proprietary and unique to us. And it's our own art. So you're
right,
getting my own unique art, and it's just really creative for me to create. And I just love what I'm doing. So I just want to keep doing it. As long as people buy the product, have interest in the product, I just want to create, I want to keep doing it. And Boston, I'm from Rhode Island. Rhode Island's doing great because Rhode Island is, it's my backyard, it's my hometown, it's my home state. And, people know what my product is about because I'm from Rhode Island, but Boston is also my backyard. And Boston is such a hard market. They are very difficult to switch over from that preserved moss. Even though they don't like it, even though there's so many disadvantages to it, I'm still, seeing that pushback. So I would love to get into the Boston market, and dominate it because right now there's this one big florist company that's been in business for 38 years, and their business strategy, these horticulturists, these corporate florists, these artists that use this preserved moss, their business strategy is to replace the products. They have customers who spend tens of thousands of dollars a year replacing plants in different buildings. Like, they were at hotels, when I was trying to pitch to a hotel in Boston, replacing their plants outdoors and indoors. And, their business strategy is all about making the customer spend money more a year to replace the product. And I want to get in here, I want to show people what Moss Peer is about. And I'm really focusing on not just the entire United States, because we work with everyone. We work with people in Colorado, California. I'm sending things out the door to people in these states all the time, daily. But I really just want to get that Boston market just because it's my backyard, it's my community, and there's a big competitor in there right now, and I just want to make my mark in my community.
right,
So,
right.
I just want to continue creating and just getting better year over year.
Yes. Well, Jamie, that all sounds wonderful, and I look forward to seeing where this goes in the coming months. So good luck with everything, and thank you for your wisdom.
Thank you so much, and thank you for taking the time to
Yes,
speak with me and,
of course.
letting me tell my story.
Of course. And where can people follow you on?
They can follow us on Instagram, at Mosspure, Mosspure. Same thing on Facebook and same thing on LinkedIn as well. And you can also follow me on, all three. You can just do a Google search for Jamie Mitri, Mitri, or just Mosspure, and you'll find us.
Wonderful. Thank you again. Take care, Jamie.